Hey guys, to celebrate hitting 15,000 subscribers, we have an amazing guest here on the channel today, Ricco Fajardo, also known as the voice of Mirio. How are you doing, man?
What's up, baby? I'm doing good, man. My episode just came out. Lemillion showed
Yeah,
up just the other day, and I've been getting so much love online. It's been crazy, man. It's been really
man, you
good.
were amazing. Honestly, it was so good. You and Kellen both, it was absolutely epic.
I was just hanging out with Kellen last night. We just did an escape room together because he's in town recording for more Overhaul. So, yeah,
Yeah,
it's really great that heroes and villains can hang out. That there, there's a there's a place for us to all be together and be chill.
yeah. I wonder what an escape room with Mirio and Overhaul would actually be like the actual characters. That'd be
Oh,
pretty
probably pretty
random.
easy because Overhaul would just like take apart the walls and Mirio could just phase through and be like, "Oh yeah, the ending's over here."
Yeah, literally. So that what you actually just mentioned kind of ties into the first question. So what I did, I have a bunch of questions from people that they've been sending in, and I have just like a few questions that I wrote that people didn't kind of cover. And so
Okay,
one of the questions that I've always wanted to ask, like a voice actor, um, essentially, My Hero Academia is almost at the halfway point now, right, for this season.
right.
So my question to you was, when you guys are recording, do you record like a bunch of episodes in bulk, or do you do like one episode at a time, or how does it work?
So it's pretty unique with My Hero Academia because over at Funimation, and this is only over the last few years, simuldubs started where we will record the show shortly after the Japanese records the show, and we're on. But usually there's about a few weeks latency, sometimes a bit more.
Yeah,
But that was the dubbing process was a lot quicker than it was before. But now we are on simulcast, which is it's the materials. The second we get them, we're working on them, which
right.
is really cool. And that has to do with technology being a lot better nowadays, and our ability to sometimes record remotely. Actors who, because obviously if actors are all over the place, pretty
Yeah.
transient folk we are, so it's hard sometimes to get everyone in the same studio. So being able to record remotely, like for instance with Kellen in Los Angeles every once in a while, or like if I
Right.
if I take a trip to New York, I can record. um, but yeah, I would say that typically it's not in bulk for My Hero. It's actually pretty rare for that ever to occur. I think we had a hiatus for a little bit where there were some episodes that got stored up a little bit, I guess you could say, like two or three
Okay.
were kind of ready. But for the most part, because it is simulcast, we are, I mean, the ink is like the electronic ink is barely wet on the page as we are beginning to record. So yeah.
Right. Okay. So does that mean do you know what happens for the rest of the season, or are you gonna kind of just like take it one episode at a time?
Oh, I mean, okay. So personally, from an actor's point of view, I like to read everything. Whenever I have a role that's pretty substantial, I like to, do as much research as I can. So that's just drama school. It's like you wanna bone up on all your knowledge about the thing. So for me, I've read most of the manga, so I'm pretty caught up actually
Oh,
to the
nice.
to the series. Yeah, and that's just how I roll. But yeah, in regards to the animation, though, that's always a delight because you never know. You can see it in the comic, you can see it on a panel and be like, "Oh, this is going to be awesome."
Mm.
But then once you hear the music and all the elements and all your other friends
Yeah.
acting across from you, and the the animation, obviously, it's just it takes on a whole new sort of feeling. So yeah,
Yeah, for sure, man. Awesome. Well, let's get into the viewer questions. So I'm gonna try
yeah,
and say everyone's username, but some of them are like really weird. Okay.
that's great.
So
I'll try to. I will also try to say them.
the first question is from Tanner. So he says, what sort of preparations, if any, were done for your audition? And did you specifically audition for Mirio, or were you kind of like offered that role after they heard your voice?
So the audition process for when I ended up booking Mirio, I was on vacation visiting some of my girlfriend's family in Florida. We're in Destin, and I got an email from Colleen saying, "Hey, kind of have an important audition. If you can get back to me in a few days, I have a couple characters I want you to read for." Um, Essentially, the breakdown for the characters, because she didn't want to reveal, I think, what the characters were necessarily, but she did have
Right.
some lines, and so she gave some background, and more or less where she wanted the voice to be. So essentially, for me, it was my most heroic sort of voice, and then my most villainous sort of voice. And come to find out, sometime later that I was auditioning for both Mirio and Overhaul
Oh.
at the time, which was really exciting. So after I audition, and usually when you do it on the fly, so I was doing it out of town. I have a better microphone at home. Like my home studio is kind of tuned out for most of my recording. But when I'm on the road, it's kind of actually what you're hearing right now. This is what I would be the quality of the audio, which is fortunately good right now. But it's nice and quiet.
Yeah.
No planes flying overhead. No birds chirping. Um, but but yes, I did record, a kind of slapdash version for Colleen,
Right.
hero and villain. She asked for a follow up. She said, can you give me a couple director notes, like, for the hero, can we make him a bit younger, more like high school age, and for the villain, can we really like dig into this like sort of what did she say? Can't remember the note exactly, but it was almost like maniacal, I
Right.
think was the note. And I was like, okay. And of course, now that now that we see the characters, like, I see where
Yeah.
you're headed with this. But yeah, after I sent those in the second round, Colleen responded pretty quickly and said, okay, I'm pretty confident of who you're going to be playing. If you could do me a favor, would you mind reading some of these manga? And so she sent me some materials or suggested some, which I went to the bookstore and I bought. Because honestly, hopefully this may be answering someone's question in the future, but I wasn't like
Yeah.
caught up on My Hero. As most of our fans know, there's a lot of content out there. And so
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
between like right now, I'm juggling like Witcher and The Expanse. And like someone else just recommended another great show to me. I'm like, there's so much good stuff to see.
Oh man,
Um,
I'm starting The Witcher today. I'm gonna start it today.
oh, it's good. It's good, dude. Have you played the games?
No, see, I downloaded The Witcher 3 yesterday. Like me and my girlfriend, we're ready to do everything. We're gonna watch the show,
Oh,
play the games.
dude,
Like we're ready.
yes, Wild Hunt is so good. I love doing a charisma spec. That's essentially like a Jedi mind tricking people with a Witcher power. So
Oh yeah.
it's a CC, it's crowd control. So you like stun your opponent. But anyway, sorry, I I digress. Um, but yeah, in a nutshell, that was the auditioning process for Mirio for me, anyways. And then once I got the manga and started reading, I recognized who I was playing, and it all
Yeah.
started to just bloom in front of me. And my buddy Matt Shipman, he is Inasa in My Hero Academia. He's the Tornado Boy, and
Oh
also in
yeah.
Doctor Stone, he plays Chrome. I play Taiju in Doctor Stone. We're friends, like so we play a lot of games together and do stuff. But he's like, dude, do you know who Mirio is? And I was like, I don't really know, man, because he was super caught up. Like he read everything and he's like, dude,
Mm.
you gotta understand, this character is huge. And I'm like, okay, cool, man.
Yeah.
Like I'm one step at a time. I didn't recognize the gravity of it all until his excitement kind of then sparked my excitement. And yep, here we are
Yeah.
today.
That's awesome. I literally I can't picture you being Overhaul. Like, what would that have been like if you had been Overhaul?
Oh my god, I don't know, dude.
Like,
It's funny. I don't know, dude. I guess the thing of it is like, I've played villains before. I don't get to play them too often. I like to think that most directors will cast you, um, because they can see a thing in you.
mm,
So I guess I don't know if that's a compliment, for I mean, I think Kellen's doing an incredible job, but there are
yeah.
times where he's like, man, I have to be so mean, and he like looks all sad, and I'm like, dude, but that's like, that's not everyone can do that, man, to bring like that grit and that sort of that killer instinct to things. But then again, every villain, of course, doesn't think they're a villain.
Mm,
Most villains think that they're doing the right thing, and they are, in fact, the hero of their own story. So,
yeah.
I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to count chickens that will never hatch, because but I will say that I probably would have had a lot of fun with it. I mean, he definitely has such an interesting thing going on with that plague doctor mask,
Yeah.
and he's such an interesting character. I wonder, and I mean, I don't want to do spoilers for anyone listening to this, but like I'm curious of the future of Overhaul.
Oh yeah, me
But
too,
we can
man.
talk about that in another podcast, perhaps.
Yes, yeah, I would love to. So moving on to the next question. What was that? So this one's from Roboticized, and they said, how far do you stray from your original voice to get the right voice for Lemillion?
Oh God, this is such an easy question. I apologize ahead of time, but it's because Colleen, Colleen for her casting,
Mm.
she is notorious for casting very well for My Hero, like putting people in the pocket. And there's a kind of an age old adage with theater, I guess casting it in large for directors, that if you cast properly, you
Hmm.
don't have to direct too hard. Like your job is mostly done for you if you find if the actor's sort of in the pocket where they need to be. They don't need to. And don't get me wrong, we actors love to study and learn dialects and do research. I mean, that's half the fun of the job is figuring out all the nuts and bolts of it. But it is delightful, I gotta say, for Mirio, because it's essentially my voice, just a chipper, caffeinated, I think, version of myself. That's like
Yeah.
just always on the edge of a smile, which I typically am. Everyone when I got this role was just telling me it's just pretty much you, man. Like, and it fits perfectly, which I'm very humbled because I think Mirio is an incredible character.
For
So
sure.
I'm like, oh my god! Like when Colleen said that to me, she's like, it's just you. I started getting weepy because I'm like, wait, you really think that of me? And like, all this
Oh.
guy's fantastic. So yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So just yeah, to answer that question, it's pretty much just just me.
What about that exact same question, but for the voice of Mirio's dad? How did you like change it for that?
Well, I guess yeah. The fun part for that is I just had Kellen the other night. We were at dinner, and he was like, "Do you know who voices Mirio's dad?" And I was like, "Oh, that's me, man." And he was like, "Wait, what?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, and I thought he was joking because he was like, giving me a hard time, but he
Yeah.
was being genuine, and I was like, "That's a really high compliment." My big boy voice, my kind of warrior voice. I've used a similar voice in Heroic Tales of Arslan, where I play Daryun. He's a Dark Knight, and
Oh yeah.
the first time I invented that voice was inspired by my buddy Marcus Stimick. He's kind of a lower baritone sort of voice and barrel
Right.
chested, bigger guy, bearded, Um, and we're working on Romeo and Juliet at the time at Shakespeare Dallas. This is like 2016, and Marcus was playing Tybalt and I was playing Romeo. And every time we did our fight, he would have this sort of way he would speak, and it was very percussive and strong. And I remember thinking, man, that's a cool voice. And so good artists borrow, great artists steal. And so I
Yeah.
stole from Marcus, and I kind of like took this very like deep barrel chested sound, which honestly I'd never really played with very much. And then I think Chris Bevins was the first person to cast me using this kind of tone in a show we worked on, and then like we did Danganronpa together. But it really kind of blossomed this sort of like more older voice in Arslan.
Yeah.
And yeah, it became, and really from there I was like, oh, that's the sort of warm, behind the heart sort of uh, dad. It's also been called like my dad voice. Yeah, it's just like,
Yeah.
got children behave, sort of thing. So yeah, I would say for Mirio's dad, it just dropped a little bit in timbre, but mostly the warmth. I like to think of things of where they resonate. So, like I
Yeah.
said, behind the heart, I feel like is Mirio's dad's like supportive parent. Like he's got to have like a big heart to have a kid like Mirio. I imagine you've got to be so supportive and so loving, and have this kind of uh, 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 you know love, just a really
Yeah.
immense love available to you. So yeah, I think about the heart and I think about resonating from the heart. And with Mirio, ironically, like when I think of it, to go back to the question of like how I stray from the voice at all, I do kind of try to like throw it just a little bit higher because he's
Yeah.
always like at the edge. I feel like his energy is very bright. And which is funny because they even talk about that in the manga. I think, what is
Yeah.
it? You're brighter
Tamaki.
than, or you're like the sun. Yeah, Tamaki says like, man, you're as bright as the sun, and he's like, bro, you're way better than me. Anyway, uh, good friends, good friends. But yeah,
Yeah.
sorry to be verbose, but to answer your question, yeah, that.
Awesome, man. That's actually funny you say that because I remember the first time I heard your voice in. Did you remember the episode Unrivaled, like the very first one?
Yes, yes.
Because I had never read the manga when I watched that episode, so I didn't know who this character was, and so like hearing the energy, it was incredible to be honest.
Thanks, man. Yeah, you got to trust your director, especially in shows. Well, I mean, in general, but I mean, Colleen's been doing this kind of work for so long, and she has such a good understanding these kinds of stories
Mm.
that, I trust her implicitly. So when, I'm like, I think it's this guy, and he totally just did like this Bruce Lee breathing moment. I'm like, I have a feeling I know who this kid is. Like after reading the manga, so you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Mirio's the kid that was doing the. Have you seen that video of the little kid in the Bruce Lee suit in the yellow tracksuit doing the nunchucks perfectly to the? He's like copying it.
No, I
That's like
haven't
what
seen that
Mirio did.
one.
I'm sure Mirio as a kid. Oh, dude, I'll send it to you. Anyway,
Please.
but it's Mirio's the kid that was probably trying to do like he was playing Street Fighter and then he tried to do Hadouken because he was like, if I focus hard enough, like I
Yeah.
can do a Kamehameha if I really focus my power. I guarantee Mirio as a kid was trying to do all of that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure, man. I definitely was. But yeah.
Yeah, me too.
So the next question, what is this from? Okay, so this is from Daz, and it says, "What was it like to voice such an emotional, action-packed scene, and how many retakes did it take to perfect that scene?" I think he's probably referring to the Lemillion episode.
You know what's funny, man? We moved through that episode pretty quick, but I guess that's the plus side of having like a really strong directing and engineering team. Austin was engineering, Austin Sisk, and Colleen Klinkenbeard was directing. I don't want to pat myself on the back, but I felt very confident coming in. I'd done my research as well, and when we just we were like, I felt like we were just hammering through the episode. Like we did, usually it was first take kind of stuff, but
Okay.
then, Colleen's very specific about whittling down these scenes. So it's like, all right, I see where you're headed with that. Let's try this. Let's try that. All right, cool. And then we kind of paint the picture of where we want it to be. And then, maybe take a whole nother swing at it.
Right.
Because I mean, like my tendency, for instance, there's one moment specifically, and I imagine if you're listening to this, you've seen the episode, so apologies if you haven't. But there is a sequence where Mirio recognizes that Eri is about to get disassembled,
Yeah.
and he sees her like brace in the way that a person who's used to getting hurt braces. And when he recognizes that, he goes, "Man, you've just been in pain your whole life, haven't you?" I did a version of that where I played it very intimate, as if I was talking to a kid, an abused child, and it was very emotional, and it felt right. It felt so good, and we're all kind of weepy recording this moment, and Colleen had to tell me, she's like, that's beautiful and it's awesome, but we can't do that. Like we can't let it go low right here. We have to drive it. We have to have this energy
Right.
for Lemillion, because like even though it's like we all agree that this is a sweet moment and this is a message that needs to be, it's like we are also in the middle of a fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that we have to preserve that energy. And so my actor temptation to like sometimes get a little emotional and maybe even sometimes reaching into melodrama, like Colleen is there to rein me in. So I would say for the most part we were hitting the anvil and it was ringing out, and 1, 2, maybe 3, but that's really all it took. We I think felt very
Yeah.
confident about what we were doing.
And do you guys like alternate between the lines, like when you're doing different takes? Do you like change the lines a bit or no?
Oh yeah, on the fly. I mean, sometimes it depends on the adaptation of like how much TLC was given to a certain scene, and oftentimes I find in very dramatic moments, that the translation can get a little, like, just the stresses on certain words sometimes don't
Mhm.
light up the same way. Um, I'm struggling to look for an example right now, but it could be something as simple as, like the translation says, I want to protect this girl, and I'm going to be her savior.
Yeah.
So we would translate that to, I'll be the one to save this girl, right? But I'm going to be her hero. It's like, well, this girl. Why are we saying this girl? In Japanese, it makes sense, to say that because they had laddered it a certain way. Like their flow makes sense. So we have to. I'm just going to say Eri, or use this name. What does the potency of saying her name at this moment mean? Did we say it earlier? And what is our kind of flow in the
Right.
in the English? And it's honestly, man, sometimes it's just like a trip of the tongue. Like there's different words that just sound better together and match the animation better. So like,
Right.
I don't know. I feel like Colleen's, again, very adept at being able to see the things that, the biggest one that she changed was what is it? I'm not powerless, because that was not written in.
Yeah, no, I saw
Uh,
you on Instagram talking about that line.
yeah, man. That one was like we're approaching the end of the episode, and it's Mirio's been hit with a bullet, and he's struggling to fight, but it's the mark of someone who has gone through a lot of struggle himself and has
Yeah.
smacked his face into the wall a bajillion times and has risked his life to get good. And there's something to a person like that, that even when they, you can take away all their toys, you can take away all their money, take away all their clothes, but they're still there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything they've built up is still there. And that's a force. That's something I think, that he has always known, but to hear it articulated in that, where he's like, I'm not powerless, like that it's like, I think it's a very assertive thing to say, but I can't remember what the Japanese, what we had in the translation. It was something like, it won't be for nothing, or it won't be, I won't be useless, or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like, well, Colleen was like, she thought about it for half a second and was like, I'm not powerless. I was like, ugh. And the second when she wrote it, she was typing it out, and I started getting tears in my eyes. I'm like, that's what this guy's about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean, man. In fact, for the Japanese version, I don't know if you saw the subbed version of the latest episode, but I remember Overhaul kept on saying this one line. It was like, it was all for nothing. It was all for nothing. He kept on saying that over and over again.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so yeah, I guess what you said was kind of, or what you were going to say would be the inverse of that, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's a delicate balance, man, because we always want clarity. The story always comes first.
Yeah.
We're always trying to make sure that everyone is getting the story. But in some of these moments, it's like, well, the language isn't helping us out right now. Like, how do we support the narrative? And then it's like almost after the fact, like now I have to render it as natural as possible as the actor, and still give it that heart that it needs, which I would say sometimes is like the easiest part. But I got, because when it comes to writing, man, like I would probably it would be like session halting error. I would just sit there and probably agonizing over a line for, I'm like, all right, guys, smoke break. Everyone take a break. Rico's got to rewrite one line.
Yeah.
I'm powerless. 4 hours later. So yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, just before we move on to the next question, because something you said, it kind of like just made me think. When you guys are recording, do you have like the animations playing there to see how your voice like syncs up with it, or not?
Oh, sure. Yes, we definitely have the animation. It's pretty rare that we do not. I mean, every once in a while, like it might not be the final animation. Sometimes they call it, because like the production houses might still be working on a fight scene to make something a little fancier, or maybe they might have had an error of some kind. Like I've caught some animations sometimes that have like a character that had like a cape or something, and then they didn't animate it in. And
Right.
so there's like a teleporting cape, and you're like, oh my God, that's like huge. That's bad.
Yeah.
So, sometimes while they're changing that, they might change the what we call the flaps as well, which is the mouth movements that we are supposed to match.
Right.
So yeah, typically we have the animation. I think I can speak on part of most of my acting friends that our favorite kind of animation is prelay, meaning they give you the line, you say it however you please, and they animate to your voice.
Right.
That's probably some of the most exciting voice over work you can do, because you just have so much liberty. But everything has its charm. It's also very fun to have some constraints, like seeing Mirio say, I am Lemillion, and he's like the musculature of his mouth. It's like, oh man, in that specific scene you can see that he's literally saying, Lemillion. Like it's difficult to not script that you know what I mean, in that way. But
yeah, it would just take you out of it, wouldn't it?
Yeah, sorry, I kind of got off topic there. I apologize.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, it really, I mean, it would like, but to speak to not having the animation, sometimes we do have, I think back in the day before they would have animation, sometimes they would have like they'd have to guess at it. They'd have like little bits of like keyframes of scenes. I know sometimes whenever I've worked on video games, they would be like, yep, we don't have the animation for the video games, but we have like these 3 sort of stills, and we kind of need to match this sort of cadence of this foreign language if I'm dubbing. But yeah, so you get it in a variety of packages.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Okay, let's move on to the next question. So this one's from Beastful Boy, and you kind of already answered half of this question, but he says, do you read the manga? And if you do, what's your favorite theory right now?
Oh yeah, so definitely read the manga. Favorite theory right now. Well, I was hanging out with my friend in LA the other day, Felicia Angel. She plays Toru Hagakure.
Oh, cool.
She's Invisible Girl, and she's one of my close friends. And we were chatting, and I was doing a signing for my little Mirio pop figure, and she and I were just chatting in the idle moments, and I was like, dude, so I don't really know much about this whole like there's a spy somewhere on the hero's side, but like
Right.
it's you, right? Like it's got to be you because like you're invisible, or maybe like there's because I don't know. There's always just something about she's always around and she's
Yeah.
just got gloves. We have no idea what she looks like. Maybe there's a metaphor there for like fear of the unknown, but I'm
Mm.
like, you're the spy, aren't you?
Well, you make a good point because
Um,
like there might be sometimes she's even there and you wouldn't know because she's not wearing gloves or whatever else. So yeah, she
that's
could.
right.
Yeah.
And so someone approached me and said like maybe like do you think maybe Mirio's the spy? And I was like, I would have my heart broken in like 9,000 pieces if that was the
No,
case.
there's no way.
But you never know. I mean, like, I don't know. I've been hurt before, man. Anyway, but I don't think that's the case.
Oh man, I would not like that. I would not like that twist at all.
Yeah, me neither. I would. I'd have to go for like a long, soul searching journey into the
Yeah.
into the mountains. Uh,
Oh man. So what do you think of the idea of Eri potentially giving Mirio his quirk back in the future?
Um, obviously it's something that seems to be in the cards. They're very close,
Yeah.
Ari and Mirio. For those who've read ahead, they're two peas in a pod. I like to think he's like in my future. I don't know if I will ever adopt a kid. I don't know. Hopefully have the spirit and I guess hopefully the funds to do to be able to do that and pass on good stuff to take care of another human that way. But essentially, Mirio does that, and I know he's witnessed Eri, go through a bunch of pain,
Hmm.
and seeing as how her quirk is one that does not really bring her pleasure necessarily and can endanger her life, I don't think Mirio is really on the side of Eri using it much at all to do anything, even though it seems to be like a temporal thing. Like she can kind of keep someone in stasis, but like also revert them to a previous, literally revert someone to a previous state. And I
Yeah.
don't know if it's like a time ability, if it's like, Prince of Persia Sands of Time
Mate,
or what,
there's been so many
but
debates about Eri's quirk, like it's not even funny. Like
right.
yeah,
And so, and I know she's, oh,
no,
sorry, go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say like there's not a lot known about it even now, like fully up to date in the manga, we still don't know enough about it.
Right. Oh, well, I guess I could theorize about that. I would say that, I was just saying this the other night that I think Eri, because she's so cute and small, but so OP,
Yeah.
like with her ability, that I feel like it's a time thing, sort of, and that she can advance or reverse time on someone. Which, by the way, like, okay, reverse All Might back to his prime, and
I
we've got
know,
a whole
right?
golden age again. You know what I mean? We're dialed. We got but obviously it comes with risks. She could go too far. She could go, and then her horn, it seems to be, is connected to that. So I theorize that there might become a time where Aerie uses her ability, and maybe there's some kind of equivalent exchange here where like it advances her age. So she's gonna
Ooh.
like age quicker, and then like she's gonna get these kind of cool like succubus horns that pop out,
Oh
and then
man.
she's still gonna be sweet Aerie, but just grown up, which will be weird because then it's like, wait, are you still tiny? Because I'm going to treat you like a kid forever.
Yeah.
Like, don't grow up. They grow up so fast, literally. So that's kind of my 2 cent, like just off the cuff theory.
That is a really good theory though. Like you just came up did you just come up with that just now?
Last night I was just kind of noodling around. I was like, I based on her because she's like, she is definitely like a one of the set pieces on the board that are like story wise that
Hmm.
it's hard to reconcile right now, because yes, we understand we can't really use her power right now. I'm sure they're training her, someone's training her, and what better person to have train you than Mirio, who's like, why don't you just fail a bunch?
Yeah.
But I don't think Ari can do that, because if she messes up she might like kill someone,
Literally, yeah.
and then literally, and that is not what we want any I don't think anyone wants Ari to go through.
No.
But yeah, I think that is my theory, is that Ares kind of like tied somehow to like some sort of chrono, temporal sort of thing,
Hmm.
and that's how she's able to keep Deku in infinite full cowling, and just complete kicking ass. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's to do with time as well, but I think a few people think it's to do more on like the cellular level.
Yeah, right. because without overhaul to like rebuild her, you know what I mean? Like, I think that now we get to see what, because she never had the opportunity to mature past that state. Overhaul kept bringing her back to that state.
Yeah.
I think, you know,
Yeah,
anyway,
and she
anyway.
never, and when she was with Overhaul, like she never really used it. Like she was being experimented on, but she never really used the quirk for any reason.
Right, right. I think maybe, and that's the reason why Overhaul hadn't even really done full research. He was like, all I know is that she can make someone's quirk go away
Yeah,
forever,
that's all he cares about.
which essentially is like, yeah, the quirk takes time to manifest. So maybe what they're doing on a cellular level is just bringing him to like, you know, pre-quirk mode.
Mm.
Which and then what happens if they just get a bit older? Would they just get their quirk back again? I don't
Yeah,
know.
so that,
Anyway,
yeah,
we could talk forever.
yeah, literally. So Slyman64 writes, what was it like working with legends like Christopher Sabat, who plays All Might?
Oh yeah, I was texting Chris Sabat this morning. I was like, I'm trying to do a really fun panel over at My Hero Con. I'm trying to do like a live dubbing panel, so I needed some advice from him.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, it's great. It's always a little weird, I feel though, because I've gotten to this point. I love acting, and I've studied acting for a very long time. But I've also, you know, listened to Dragon Ball since I'm a kid. So to work with Chris, it's I don't know. It's a little sort of like it's work, right? So like I'm still focused. I'm still doing my job, and I'm like delighted, like from an actor point of view, not even thinking about like the legendary status as you said, because like you know you work with some really talented people, and you kind of just like, at least for me, when I'm working with these folks, these kinds of folks who've done so much, it's like I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to be playing with someone who's so talented and so playful, and like because inherently like Chris is so playful, and he's got such a wonderful instrument, and he's like very charismatic, and it's like I'm delighted. I'm like a kid in a candy store when I get to play across someone like that. You know what I mean? And Justin Briner, oh my God, I've worked with him for so many years now in so many different projects, and it's like I'm delighted. I'm always tickled. But when I take a step back, I guess I've never really been like the fanboy type.
Right.
But when I like sit inside of the the couch, the couch of my mind where I was watching Dragon Ball, I'm all, holy cow, man, this is really cool. I feel very humbled and honored to be like woven into narratives with people who I've also had the pleasure to be affected by their storytelling as
Yeah.
well. You know, um, I'm literally, yeah. It's like I'm not so much to say like I was, you know, forever changed by things like Dragon Ball, but I gotta tell you, man, like it's to this day I still carry, Yamcha in a crater, like in my heart. Like
Oh my God.
there's, we all carry these things, these distinct images, and I know that
I know
with my hero, like,
sorry.
what's that?
It was just that you mentioned Yamcha. Does he play Yamcha as well?
I believe so. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's right. So anyway, yeah, I know everyone's probably like, "Oh, Vegeta this, Vegeta that." I'm like, bro, Yamcha's a human.
Yeah.
Like, it's so much harder. He's a human, and he's fighting OP aliens. Like, you guys got to remember, scaling is important here.
Yeah.
Like, anyway, Krillin, God, come on, like, you guy's strong as hell. Anyway, but yes, I got to say, it is an honor. It's very humbling, and at like my absolute, nerdiest, I'm just so happy to be working with like really skilled, fun people. It's just there's nothing more fun. Like I'm going to name drop here just for a moment, just because my girlfriend was in Hamilton, Hope and Draney. She
Oh, wow.
worked on the Broadway's Hope and Draney. Yeah, she worked on Hamilton. And I got to meet Lin-Manuel Miranda at the LA opening of Hamilton. And so
Wow.
I was hanging out with him, and I was like, "Hey, Lin, do you remember me?" Because back in 2011, way back, way back, when he was writing that show, I got to beatbox with him
Oh, really?
on stage. I beatboxed for him, and he freestyled. And I remember thinking, man, this guy is so freaking talented. He's so well read. Like, when you I have this theory that one of the best ways to get to know actors and is to improv with them,
Oh, yeah.
because usually they lead with their strengths. Yeah, always. It's like they always lead with their strengths. So like, if they're super attractive, they can just sit back and smile, and everyone like, fawns over them. If they're, really good inventors, or like character people. I'm thinking of oh gosh, there's so many. Um Oh my goodness, I can't remember his name right now. The actor, he's in Barry. He was on SNL. Does a ton of great sketches. Oh my God, Bill Hader.
Oh yeah, I know that
Bill
guy.
Hader's a wonderful character guy. Yeah, he's so good. But when it comes to like listening to good writers, like writing is also an acting ability. Um, Lin Manuel Miranda is one of the finest like writers that I've ever like got to improv with, because you can just hear the words that he comes up with and the things that spill out of him. You're like, oh, the first thing I thought was, this guy is so well read.
Hmm.
He's read so many books. I can just tell based on the thoughts and the way that he orchestrates the words coming out of his mind.
Right.
Like, yes, he has a lot of books just stored up in there. So sorry, I was a little tangential there, but
No, that's fine.
coming back to working with like very, very, legendary voice folks. It's, yeah, I mean, shoot, Mike McFarlane, Caitlin Glass, all these people. It's still a trip to be able to like sit with them and just be like, yeah, we're homeboys and we're making some art.
Yeah. A talented bunch, that is for sure. So moving on, I have a question from Izuku Midoriya, not the real one. And
Ooh, the Izuku.
and he says, when voicing Mirio's positive and happy attitude, does this affect you and like make you a more positive person?
I think we're like on par, I guess. Like there is every once in a while, like I'll catch myself. There's this weird thing, and I almost did it for Mirio's dad. That he always goes like, it's like kind of a light sort of like aha, like did you get the joke? It's a little open mouth sound that goes like, huh. It's one of the first things he does, and he goes, huh, trash, am I right? But it's a
Oh
little like
yeah.
huh sound, like that he just makes. And I was gonna have Mirio's dad do it and go like, huh, and like kind of let it be a familiar thing. I didn't end up doing it, but I find myself, I catch myself doing that sometimes where I just like,
Oh wow.
like I'll like throw it out, and I'm like, oh my God, is it so? I'll say to that end, a little bit of Mirio has been kind of working its way to my life
Yeah,
for good reason recently, but yeah, I think we already share that kind of sort of optimism and just happiness to be around. Grateful to be here. Um, I had this talk about fan theories before about I think there's a thing popping around online where the big three are like emblematic of the things that like three of the biggest challenges we face in high school, which is like Hado has like ADD. She's like constantly looking around, and she has a hard time focusing on one thing.
Mm.
Amajiki is like not introversion, but like tentative, kind of social. I'm very, very nervous.
Yeah.
Um, quieter, keeping to themselves, sort of like can't think of the right terminology for that at the moment. But for Mirio, like actually depression, because even though he's a bright, shiny person, like he has to delve into this dark, dark, dark place where he's alone, can't hear anything, and he's like and I don't know about you, but some of the most like bright, shiny people that I know are also sometimes the most depressive.
Yeah.
And there's this duality there, right? Where it's like, how does someone stay so happy all the time? How does someone stay so optimistic? It's usually because they recognize the dark. They know how crummy it is to be sad. They know how. So it's like, why even waste time doing that when I could be up here, like just enjoying my life with these people, So I think even his quirk is sort of emblematic of that. That falling into the earth where you are alone, and if one little slip and you could lose your life.
Literally, yeah.
Um, you know what I mean? And his dad says that it's like, which, and in effect, I mean, that's like, you could call it suicide. You could call, like, because it is you're in control of it. Do you want to do this? Are you willing to take the risk to be a hero? Fortunately he says yes. And things turn out as we've been seeing the show, but I can imagine, a not happy version
Yeah.
if we were watching a darker anime.
Right.
But yeah, man, I do think that the positivity is something that, for both Mirio and myself, there are the ebbs and flows, ups and downs of life, but sort of generally just being happy that you're able to get up and work on something, like having. I think it's also related to his quirk, because everyone told him it was garbage.
Mm.
His it was like not good, but he had a goal, he had a determination. His father supported him. He came to meet Night Eye, who supported him. He had a good group of people. He had some good friends who supported him. He didn't do it alone. and through that, he was able to really, I think, groom this perspective on life, this positivity.
Yeah,
So,
man.
yeah, I think I also am surrounded by, even though I don't look around very often, but I do have some kick-ass people in my life, and yeah, and yourself, who I'm talking to right now, because we clearly share a similar energy. So it's like, I think that's why Mirio resonates with a lot of people.
Yeah, man. I love, personally for me, Mirio is my favorite character. But it's interesting what you say about his quirk, actually, because like he is literally just like he can't see anything, can't hear anything. It's just complete darkness, and yet he is the most bright and positive person. Like when he's talking to people, I've never really thought about it in that way before. But that is interesting.
Yep, his clothes fall off. He's literally naked. Like, I mean, I know it's kind of a joke for people, but it's like, have you ever been naked in front of a crowd of people? Like, there's nothing more liberating and both embarrassing. I've done theater.
All right.
It's like we do some naked scenes sometimes, but like, it's a thing, man. Like you literally are revealing yourself. I mean, I think that's what Mirio is about. He's just unapologetically himself,
Hmm.
and there are people that love him, there are people that don't,
Who
but
doesn't like
it's
Mirio?
him.
No, everyone loves Mirio. But,
Well, I would say Overhaul probably doesn't like,
oh yeah,
or maybe he does like him. I don't know. Which, by the way, once Overhaul, once the bullet connected, I was like, oh, you guys can be friends now, right? Because he's not sick
yeah,
anymore.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So true.
But then Mirio starts throwing them
Oh man.
hands.
No, you
Anyway.
know what? I loved in the dub. I loved when Kellen was kind of just like going off about right after Mirio got shot. He had like this whole rant about how ironic it was Mirio got shot and blah blah blah. I actually loved that part.
Oh, dude, is great. So strong. I'm so proud of Kellen. Um, and actually, I know there's some folks that were talking about the animation because, like, I was a little thrown when they started doing like the
Oh
the
yeah.
still frames toward the end there, rather than fully animated. But it does allow more for imagination. And honestly, some of those hits, like where he punches Overhaul's forearm, that's like a hit that will make your
Mm.
forearm go numb, which means that he can't use his hands as much. I was like, oh, Mirio's so smart. Anyway.
Yeah, no, the thing is, the thing about the stills was that wasn't actually in the manga originally. So I'm like, on one hand, I'm like, okay, they've done something new and they've added something. So I don't know. It did kind of take me out of it a little bit, but then I was thinking it wasn't in the manga, so they kind of just added this on for us. So I guess I don't know.
Right. Yeah. The music, like, yeah, exactly, because we don't see it in the manga. It's like all we know is Mirio has been fighting for, I think,
Yeah,
4 or 5 minutes. He's just been going by himself without a Quirk, which is like, I mean, a round in boxing is like a fraction of that. It's like I can't imagine that doing well. Like,
yeah, especially against Overhaul. Like,
I think that's what it was. Yeah, is like showing these little pictures, showing like one vignette, like to give you an idea of what's occurring, and every pose he hits is like so
mm,
heroic and so iconic inside of those little frames. Because I will admit, for me, I was like a little taken out of it at first, but then I'm a pretty big music guy, so the second I heard the music that supported it, I was like, I see what you're allowing us to really just drink in, like it's like our own
yeah,
fights. It's the struggles where we feel powerless. Like I wanna weep right now, even just saying it. Like it's those moments, dude, that we hit all the time where it's like, you you lose a loved one, you have a big breakup, you lost your job,
mm,
all this stuff. It's like, but I'm still here and I'm still
yeah.
fighting. Like,
Mm.
ugh, so good, dude.
It's good content. So, moving on to another question. So this one's from Gento, and they said, as a
Okay.
more personal question, out of all the characters you voiced, what is your favorite?
Out of all the characters of voice, what is my favorite? It's hard to. Mirio's just always right here, right now. Um, one that always holds a special place in my heart. It's not quite a tie. I would say silver medal. The silver medal will go to Leon Luis in Gato. I was the lead in that show. He's the Golden Knight. He struggles a lot with the idea of
Right.
revenge. Um, and family, a lot of issues with that, and just kind of being. It might seem like he's just kind of a angsty edgelord emo kid, but he's got a lot of anger and hate inside, and wants to communicate it to the world. And I think that's, I don't know, I feel like a lot of people feel that at some point or
For
another
sure.
in their lives. And there's a scene I got to play. There's a turning point for Leon where he meets a girl, and played by Brina Palencia, who's the person actually that ever for the first time got me an audition over at Funimation. We had met on a film set, and we're good friends. We've been friends for a long time. But I got to play a scene across from her, and she was just a farm girl, and my character, ironically, has lost his powers at this point
Oh,
in this
okay.
show. I guess that's a
Yeah,
running theme for me.
typecast.
Anyway, but like, yeah, I didn't. Anyway, I just recognize that now. Anyway, he's talking with her, and it's a very dramatic scene, and it's those times where you feel really, really connected to something because it kind of reached out from the anime and into life a bit. And so that being said, the gold medal, I will say, despite Mirio aside, I kind of have to give Mirio a free pass and just let him sail because it's too in front of my face right now. I would say it's Haruhiro from Grimgar of Ashes and Illusions, or Grimgar Fantasy and Ash. That's one of the first kind of, I guess, no. Well, as a lead role, he's a thief in this sort of, you know, fictitious world of
Right.
Grimgar. It's very mysterious about where they're from, but and how they're going to help each other. But there's real stakes. Like the opening episode is them trying to kill one goblin, and they can't bring themselves to do it because first off, they don't really know how to fight, and number two, it's really hard to take the life of a living thing, as
Yeah.
it should be. And I think they're trying to struggle with it, but they all have their own perspective on it. His buddy Ronta is trying to prove himself and just wants to be a badass. One of the girls is struggling with like weight issues.
Okay.
They all have like these little subtle storyline things. But what's cool about it all, I think, is that I hadn't really met any of the actors involved. So Monato in that show is played by Justin
Oh,
Briner,
right.
who's Deku in My Hero, and he's my close friend in that show. He's actually like, I look up to him. He's amazing. He's awesome, and he ends up making a wonderful sacrifice to save us all. And it's like and I still communicate to him because of course it's a kind of RPG land, kind of sword art online kind of
Mm.
world. So I'm able to commune with his spirit, and it's these lovely moments where I felt like I learned so much about Justin Briner, Jeannie Torado, Sarah Wiedenheft. They're all my little party. We had our little group, Jared Green, um, both Orion Pitts and Cliff Chapin when he did the voice match. There's all of them I felt so close to, because I would narrate just constantly about them and our
Mm.
relationships, and it was all kind of slice of life in the way that dialogue happened. So it just felt so simple and honest and real, and yeah, I really enjoy that. I enjoyed that aspect of it, and of course I'm a big RPG nerd, and I always play a thief whenever I can. And my character was a thief; he was a rogue, and I'm like, oh my god, it's perfect. It was great. And then I think Jamie Markey was my trainer. She was my like rogue teacher. It's like, of course, very sexy, thief
Yeah.
teacher showing me how to do backflips and stuff and stab people. But yeah, that show really, really, I think captured my heart, and it stays with me to this day just because beautiful watercolor, amazing music, and the people, man, having your little crew adventuring into the unknown and learning about them is I think one of my favorite things. My favorite game is Chrono Trigger. It's an old SNES game, and it's like similar. You meet these characters and you learn so much about them.
Right. I've not heard of that game
Yeah.
before.
Anyway, well, okay. Everyone listening who heard that just now, you heard him say that he's never heard of Chrono Trigger, and I just want to get this. We're recording this. We have it officially. My head is
Yeah, I'm
exploding right
sorry, man.
now in Dallas. I will get you a copy of it. Do you have a
What,
DS? Do
Nintendo
you have a
DS? I mean, I do have one. Yeah, I haven't used it for a while
Yeah.
now, though.
Okay, I'll get you. Listen. I'll find you a copy somehow. Anyway, but I hope you play this game and let it occupy your idle time because it's really amazing.
Well, I gotta finish The Witcher 3 first, man. I gotta finish that.
Oh, that's right. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So it's about 50 minutes now. So do we have time for 2 more questions? Is that okay?
Sure, sure. Yeah, please we can keep pushing. I can, I'm looking at my clock and I'm trying to text my buddy, so he's not waiting for me. Yeah, we're
Okay.
good.
Okay, cool. So this next question is from Gabrielle, and they said, "What was your initial reaction after hearing that Mirio would lose his quirk, or did you already know of this episode months before it was time to record it?"
Oh yeah, I knew about this a while ago. So when I told you the earlier aforementioned story of me going and grabbing the manga at the store, I was outside of Kinokuniya, a little bookstore out here in Carrollton, Texas, and I had a little like latte I'd gotten from a bakery pretty close by, and I cracked open the manga with my character on the front of it. I'm like, how exciting, Lemillion, this is great. And
Yeah.
I'm reading it, and I see that he the big smiley picture where he gets hit by the bullet, and I openly wept like a child in in this cafe. I was just sitting there. I was like, again, unapologetically, I'm like, no, like this is so noble, and it's so heroic, and it's so like, I don't know, it's everything you would want and expect in a character like this. And I was like, I can't believe I'm going to get to play him. I can't,
Yeah.
like, so there was a mixture of like joy, but also just like sadness, but also like, this is, I mean, it's like hero's death. You know what I mean? Give me a hero's death. Put me in there.
Yeah.
you know, he was in the right place at the right time. A lot of people will come up to me at conventions and be like, "Are you sad? Isn't it sad?" And I'm like, "No, man. It's exactly how it's supposed to be." Like, because
Mm.
I don't think everyone understands. There's a really beautiful shot. Also, the more important shot, other than Mirio smiling, is the picture of Eri kind of ensorcelled or swaddled in Mirio's cape.
Yeah.
And when Deku reaches for her hand, it's there's a shot of her holding the cape going, well, if he can sacrifice something and he can take risk and he can do this for me, I can also take a risk. And so she stands up. So it's my hero seems to have this running theme of, passing on energy, passing on quirks, passing on, you know, energy, really. And I guess in this case for Mirio, with his sacrifice, he literally gave Eri a shot. He made her believe for a moment, and that's all that they needed. Instead of her going back to Overhaul and essentially sealing the deal, she is able to go to Deku because Mirio, you know, with, again,
Mm.
it cost him everything, but it's like sometimes all you need is just one little slice of hope.
Yeah, and that's actually a really good point because like Mirio literally sacrificed his quirk with, like you say, he had a massive smile on his face, like he was willing to do it. Because I had a few people comment on one of my recent videos, and they were saying, "Oh, why didn't Mirio just push Eri out the way?" Or someone literally said to me, why didn't Mirio drop kick Eri out the way?" And I thought they were serious. And I was like,
I
guys,
mean,
like, yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
well, I mean, okay. I mean, if we want to, we can like death battle this and talk about like mathematically how it all could break down. But really, I mean, so from what I just said about, seeing that having a person go to bat for you. I just read an article, actually. It's funny. Before we started recording, I was just kind of leafing through some online articles, and one was talking about how if you give your best to someone, helping someone, um, just out of goodwill, it asserts
Mhm.
their value. It shows that they are worth it. And I think if you remember what Overhaul's been saying to Eri this whole time is, you're worthless. You hurt people. You are
Mhm.
bad. You are not a good thing. Um, for someone to reach out to you and watch them put everything on the line for you,
Mm.
you are now bound to that. You are now complicit. You're in this because this person says, no, you are of value, you are of worth, and I'm going to show you by literally bleeding for you, by hurting for you. So to see someone do that for you personally, I think was sort of, I don't know if that's Mirio's goal necessarily. I don't think, if he had it his way, yeah, let's save Eri and get out of here. But remember how the story was set up. Overhaul says, listen, I've got you trapped. I'm gonna hit Eri, like I'm gonna get her,
Mm.
I'm gonna hurt her. You can't keep her safe forever. Because literally Overhaul is just gonna fill it with spikes. So Mirio's goal is to also protect her. I'm not gonna let you get hurt anymore. So even though that is a little bullheaded and a little stubborn, like, because yeah, if he was thinking outside of the box, he's like, well, maybe he's a little more chaotic good. Maybe he could be like,
Mhm.
yeah, let's just let Eri get, I call your bluff. Go ahead, hurt her. I'll just permeate and maybe just like hold her and let you like impale her, and then go ahead and put her back together because you have to, because you need her, right? Or
Oh, okay.
yeah, drop kick her out of the way, which would then also like save her and then maintain Mirio for a second. But remember, he was engaged with Overhaul. He was trying to knock Overhaul out. So again, Mirio is pretty badass, but he literally can't be in three places at once.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it was well played by the Shiha Saikai, and it was also well played, I think, by Mirio. I think it was honestly his best shot because he's also, if you remember the last thing he says during the episode, he's like, guys, I'm still fighting. Like, he knows his role. He's like, I'm going to sit here, I'm going to tank, and I'm going to fight for as long as I can until I know my friends are coming. So yeah, don't drop kick Eri.
Exactly.
The moral of the story, like, don't hurt the kid that's being used to getting hurt.
So what have we got here? Okay, so this one's actually a really good question. So this one's from Phil the Logician, and he says, do you have any tips for upcoming voice actors?
Any tips for upcoming voice actors? Oh, so many. So I went to school for a long time for acting. Did my undergrad at Antelope Valley College, California, UC Irvine, California. Got my bachelor's there, and then did my master's studying classical theater at Southern Methodist University. That brought me out to
Awesome.
Dallas. So I have a pretty extensive, like, I a bit of an academic. I'm scholastically addicted to acting and theater. I love it. I love the study of it. So that's almost a disclaimer because what I'm going to say is probably really pedantic, and I do teach. I every once in a while I'll go up to Spring Green, Wisconsin, at American Players Theater, and I'll teach like for a week there, some of their talented kids. And I used to teach like at Richland College and at SMU. But what it usually comes down to is ain't nothing to it but to do it. Start acting. And it's I gotta say, it sounds so simple, but the key is to practice it. Learn the art form. Eric Vale always like will bludgeon you with this, is why him and I laugh about it, but it's like, do theater, go out and do a play. If that makes you feel weird, like, because you're like, well, I don't want to do theater, I want to do voice acting. I'm like, do theater, because there's more to it than simply making cool sounds into a microphone. That's one component, yes. And I've seen, God, so many talented people behind the mic, way more talented than me, never be able to book a job or make a career because there are other fundamentals they aren't aware of. Contrary to what I guess Naruto, knowledge about like talent. What is it? Talent's not everything. I think of Rock Lee a bit when I think of this. It's a there you can be very skilled, you can be very talented, but without the hard work, it is meaningless. You need to be able to go and hone it down. And also the other way, contrastly, if you don't have much talent, hard work will make up for that. You can start to discover talents as you try to do more things, because all you're aware of right now, and that's so much of what theater is discovering who you are and what you're capable of communicating. It's a communication art. You learn about your voice in all its different ways. You learn about your body, which is linked to your voice in many different ways. You learn about archetypes. You learn about all the different stories that have been told, because that's essentially what we're doing. We're doing storytelling. You should watch The Witcher. You should pay close attention to the way the camera moves. You should listen to the music. You should listen to the dialect that Geralt has to do, because he's trying to match that beautiful voice that Geralt of Rivia has, and Henry Cavill's like,
Yeah.
this is a very deep voice, Geralt of Rivia. It's like, that is a hard voice to pull off, dude, while also doing stage combat. You know what I mean? Anyway, there is a lot, and I will say that is what makes acting so much fun, is that there is so much you can learn and so much you can do. But I suggest going out there and playing and doing theater. And obviously it's subjective, because there's some people out there who've been doing theater and they might say, well, I've been doing theater and I want to, I want to learn more about voice acting specifically, because now I know how to like shoot my voice across the stage, but how to do it with a mic. I'm like, great. Keep doing like, there's more roads that kind of splinter off from that. And it's like, okay, great. Well, I would do musical theater next, because now you're singing, and that's how you properly learn how to care for your voice. You also learn what your vocal range is. What music is right for you, quote unquote, right for you, because, I'm probably not going to start singing some beautiful soprano song right away, because I know it's out of my range. But I might give it a shot with enough practice.
I would like to hear it.
I'm like, oh, no. Anyway. Mirio. No, but anyway. It's a mirio. No, but yeah, I think it's everyone's journey is unique, and I will say though that something that will apply to everyone, and it applies to me. I still take classes. I would leap at the chance to be able to do a play. But right now I am entrenched in some anime. So, but
Yeah.
when I get the opportunity, I'll probably do a play, because I will leave you with this final adage. It's because I do a lot of commercial work. I also do on camera stuff. It's commercials make you rich. Film makes you famous, but theater makes you good. And
Oh.
so there's a balance between those three that you need to understand. So if you're doing voice acting, and you got to ask yourself why. If you're like, I want to be in a big cool show, oh, you must want to be famous. And that's not a
Right.
bad thing. It might be a little linked to your ego, but it might also be linked to your pocketbook. Who knows? If you want to be rich, then why are you even doing anime? You don't get paid well doing anime. Like, get out of here. Go do a commercial for Coca-Cola or something and make all that money. Like, but again, you still have to study to do it. But
Mm.
like but if you want to be good, if you want to be good at acting and good at what you do and learn and understand it, got to do theater. So that's the best I guess I can give to as a general sort of acting tip. And I'm sorry if it sounds redundant, but I am on the Twitter. So if you tweet at me, I will usually try to, or DM me, I can try to give you some little bits of advice if I'm able to. But specificity, please be specific with your question,
Yeah.
because specificity is also the key.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on the channel today. Honestly, for me, this has been kind of surreal because, like, I'd say like around July last year, like I heard your voice and like I can't believe I'm actually speaking to you now. Like, it's pretty crazy. But yeah,
Yeah,
just
it's a
thank you.
trip, but isn't life crazy?
Yeah, literally. I would love to do this again, like at some point in the future. If that's cool with you.
Sure. Yeah, man. I mean, as long as I'm able to, it's if I can, I'll do it. It's just as a matter of scheduling,
Mm,
and I think after Mirio gets to take a little bit of a break,
yeah.
so I'll probably be more available depending on casting and stuff like that. But I'm doing a bunch of conventions in 2020, so you'll see me all over the world. Where are you at,
So I'm
anyways?
in London right now. Are you coming to London?
Oh, well, yeah, I can't say because it's not announced,
Oh,
but
so
yes. So,
maybe.
so we'll probably meet up. We'll meet
Yeah.
up. Yeah,
If
I'll let you
if
know.
you're in London, I'll
I'll
definitely.
DM you.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my crap! Did I just ruin the podcast? I'm sorry.
No, no, no.
You gotta edit. You can edit that
Yeah.
out. You don't have to. Whatever.
Okay, cool. Do you have anything like you want to shout out, like any conventions you're doing very soon?
Oh yeah. So, well, when I don't know when this podcast is going to pop up, but I'm doing My Hero Con in Arlington, Texas Smash, in just a few weeks. Also, even sooner than that, if you're in San Antonio, my friend Brittany Lauda and Matt Shipman and I will be going to PAX South, which is a gaming convention, one of our favorites. So we're gonna be out there playing games and maybe signing some autographs, talking about voiceover as well there. So those are the two for January, I believe. I might have another one coming up that's been announced. Oh, I think GalaxyCon announced me for November of
Ooh.
2020.
Okay, that's far. That's
And
far.
like I believe it's yeah, it's a little far out, so that's a ways. But they did announce me, so I can talk about that. But in any case, yeah, I'll post about it. But yeah, just follow me on Twitter. It's Ricco Fajardo with 2 C's. And yeah, again, if you have any questions about like acting stuff, feel free to DM me. I do my best to get back to you when I can, although I've been kind of swamped with all the love for Mirio recently. So I'll get to you in my best of time.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much. Ricco Fajardo, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Take it easy. And remember, go beyond plus ultra.